Welcome back. We're talking today about economic empowerment, and there was a study that came out actually just last week, and let me just give you some bits and pieces on it. It basically talks about the issue of race, stereotypes, and that race still matters. Here with me is Jim Klingman, who is the president of the Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky African American Chamber of Commerce. The background on this study. In short, it says blacks still end up at the bottom of the pack when it comes to opportunities ranging from jobs to housing. And this, again, according to a new study that indicates race continues to play an enormous role in the success of Americans. 50 researchers studied the cities of Atlanta, Boston, Detroit, and Los Angeles and found that race is deeply entrenched in the country's cultural landscape, perhaps even more than many Americans realize or, and listen to this, realize or are willing to admit. Now, I know that I just gave you some of the background on this, and you had read the article in the paper over the weekend, but this really is what we've been talking about for years, that the problem still exists and it's not going to go away overnight. And I mean, it sort of even underscores why an African American chamber is necessary in a Cincinnati or in Atlanta, Boston, Detroit, or Los Angeles.
Anywhere. They're needed anywhere. And I always go back to Booker T. Washington and in the year 1900, when he started the National Negro Business League, which is really a precursor for black chambers. He knew what he was doing, and even W.E.B. Du Bois said that Booker T's idea and everything he was doing came along at the right psychological moment. Here we find ourselves moving into another millennium, and the same kind of thing is going on. You would think that it would be better, but to me it seems like it's getting worse. And like you said, people are not willing to admit it. They're not willing to sit down and really talk about it. I mean, we have all these dialogues, but what happens after that? So it seems like history is repeating itself. You see the same kinds of things going on in the year 2000 if you look back, that you saw in the year 1900. Why Booker T started the National Negro Business League. This is why now in 1999 and 2000 we need black chambers to do the same kind of thing, because I contend, and I will always, that in order to have a strong political base, you first must have a strong economic base. If we get that, then everything else I think will fall into place. But we have to work on our economics.
Mm-hmm. And when you say that, I mean, we always talk about going back to the basics. Well, from an economic standpoint, if we go back to the basics, that means that we go back to a time when we had our own businesses.
That's right.
You know, we had ownership of our community. And really that's what the chamber has been talking about now.
Yeah, to use a tired phrase, it's the American way. As long as we're going to live here, I mean, we're not leaving, we're not going anywhere. As long as we're going to live in this capitalistic society, we have to play the capitalism game. And like you said, that means ownership. That means having businesses. You know, you look around in Cincinnati, you see our so-called communities. They're not communities, they're just neighborhoods. A community needs businesses in order to be vibrant, in order to uplift its people. And you see a lot of the businesses that have closed, you see all of the vacant storefronts. That leads to the demise of a community. So you end up just having neighborhoods where people just sleep and eat, and then they leave and earn their money and spend their money outside of their community. So that's what has happened all around Cincinnati. We need to get back to owning our businesses, developing those businesses, supporting those businesses, and holding those businesses accountable too, to provide quality goods and services back to the consumers. That way we'll have a stronger economic base. You see it all over the country with other groups. You see Little Italy, Greek Town, Chinatown, everywhere you go. But you can't go anywhere and find a black town or African American town. We need to have that. And there's nothing, this is not to the exclusion of anyone. It's because we must do this. We must do it for ourselves. And if we do it well, the whole country will benefit.
Without a doubt. And we have to make sure that we are investing in the events that come into town. So often, I mean, for the past 12 years I've been here, I always hear people say, boy, there's nothing to do. Well, there is, though.
It's a lot to
There's a lot going on.
Too much, you can't keep up with everything.
This past summer, a perfect example of some of the things taking place. I mean, we started back in Juneteenth Day. We had We had the festival, of course, in July, and then the Black Family Reunion in August. Then we had the big football game in September.
Yeah.
Just a perfect example.
Right.
And
Shows you what we can do when we work together, right?
And I tell you, there's no reason why we should not fill a stadium next year.
Oh, it should be packed.
Of course.
It should be packed. I was at City Council this week and saw John Pace and his wife. They gave him a special presentation for doing such a fine job, and I commend them as well. It just shows you what we can do when we really put our shoulder to the grindstone and move forward together, collectively, economically. That's what it's all about.
And also be mindful, because we know the incident that happened at Oktoberfest, and the community should always be mindful of all the right things that are happening at the events that we just mentioned.
Right.
So, a couple of years ago, when an unfortunate incident happened outside of the Jazz Festival, so much attention, and I was pushing the button too on making sure that we focus on what happened.
Right.
But so much attention focused on that we forgot this festival has been going on for 40 years.
That's right.
And when we think about Oktoberfest, this festival is not as old as the Jazz Festival, and we have not heard as much from city leaders.
That's right.
We have not heard as much in this media about what happened at Oktoberfest. And so you just have to be mindful and be very supportive sometimes of organizations like the African American Chamber leading the way, and sometimes taking some of the rocks of criticism.
Oh, you got that right. We turned a very negative situation into a positive situation, and yet we still have to fight off the criticism about what we're doing and not doing as far as the festival that we brought downtown. But that's fine. People can criticize. But I want people to get in there and do some work too. It's easy to stand on the sidelines and talk about what somebody else is doing. But get in there and help. We can all have a better place to live if we do that.
Yeah. Well, you've made Cincinnati a better place too, Jim. And I mean that. We are friends, but I know how hard you work throughout the community. Why don't you give the number for folks who want to become members? And help out in any way they can.
All they need to do is call 751-9900. They can ask our office manager, Jenny, to send them an application, or they can stop by our new building on Beecher and Gilbert Avenue, right across the street from the Stowe House, 2945 Gilbert Avenue, and stop in and see the building, pick up an application, and join right there on the spot.
Boy, it's that easy.
That's right, very easy.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Courtis.
Anytime,
All right,
anytime. And we will be back in a moment.